People of Scientia Terra, welcome to your final exam.
Hey everybody. Alright, this is a video I've been waiting to do a long time, which is the end game. I've been working on end games for a really long time, essentially the duration of the 4 years that I've been doing full-time gamification. And it's taken me a long time to build a video for it because I'm really trying to figure out the best way to do it. So I just want to get right into this. I want to explain to you the process, and then I want to show you a bunch of footage and clips and culminate in a news story that was done about it because they did a really good piece on it. And it's probably the event I look forward to the most all year because kids just go nuts for it and it's so much fun. So let's talk about it. End games. First things first, what is it? An end game in gamification is the culminating event or activity that your whole game leads up to. Now, this begs or leads to the next question, which is why the heck would you do this? The answer couldn't be any simpler than picture anything that you do. It has to come to a finality at some point. Even the basics of life and death, we come to a final thing that we all embark on. So picture your favorite game, your favorite sporting event, anything. You work and you progress all throughout, and then you get your final thing that you do. I just regrettably watched my Raptors lose to the Celtics 3 in a row. Ugh. But they're going to grind out 82 games and they're going to go into the playoffs. And the playoffs are their end game. That is their ability to then progress as far as they can, ultimately in the goal of the championship. Video games. You play, you work, you grind, you beat your levels, your mini bosses, you complete your missions. And then you get to the culminating event of saving someone or battling the final boss and things like that. So gamification at school can do this. It just takes a bit of planning. So why do we do it then? If it's going to be work, but it's one of those things that should happen, the question then begs is why? Well, think about it this way. You're going to ask your kids to embark on a 10-month journey with you of, whatever the case, whatever your gamification is. In mine, the medieval, trying to hunt down the Minotaur King, save me, save my people, and all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden it's over. That would be extremely defeating for the kids. You need to give them something in which to look forward to. So this is where the whole concept of endgames comes in. It gives them the ability to burn off their gold, burn off their cards, have this big epic day to summarize the whole year in a nutshell, you could say. And it's just one of those things that truly is going to be one of the more memorable events that you do. So I'm really hoping that through this step-by-step and video footage you see, you'll dive right in and give it a shot. So let's go about how you do it. Step number 1. The first thing you want to do is you want to determine what it is your end game is going to be. Now, there's 2 possible ways that you can have your end game. The first one is going to be a culminating activity for your last unit. This is the way that I used to do it. Everything up to last year, this is the same principle I followed. So I used to run an end game called a Thirsty Games. And the Thirsty Games was just building a water filter out of garbage, but following the Hunger Games style, where they're all in an arena, they can't leave, borders change, enemies are added, they are fighting for limited resources, and things like that. Now, the reason I stopped in favor of what I did last year was it got too repetitive. Kids knew what was going on. Brothers, siblings, friends. Oh yeah, when you do the Thirsty Games, do this, get this, sneak in this, hide this. So I needed to do something that would blindside kids. So this would be my recommendation for an end game, is to do it as a review for an exam. So in order to do it, I essentially took everything that I looked at throughout the entire year and I tried to summarize it in a one-day event. And what I did was, I was like, well, medieval, we're always going to different towns and villages and cities, so I literally built a village on the field. Now, crudely, of course. We had little mock campgrounds, and I'll kind of get to that in a second. But the whole idea is, if you're not going to do a culminating event tied to a unit, create a fictitious scenario where you're going to run into people who need your help to review everything that you've covered throughout the year. So now that you've got kind of step 1 of how it is you want to go, a final event or kind of a review, I'm going to focus on the review style. So part 2 is how do you build it? Now, when it comes to building it, what you have to do is you have to first start by thinking about what you would run into. So if you chose a village, for example, like I did, there'd be people in the village, there'd be important people and non-important people. And I'll get to that in a second. There might be things you have to fight or battle. It might be people you have to save, puzzles you have to solve, mystery you have to solve. There might be events that you have to piece together step by step. So all of these things created for me what I needed to do the next step, which was give every one of these possible scenarios some life breathed into them. So what I did was I started looking at it and I said, okay, I covered, for me, 5 units in science. So out of these 5 units, I wanted to have 2 quests in this village based on each unit. So I started off by laying out, mixed matter and flow, September, October. What did we cover? Density, viscosity, calculating density. What is viscosity ramp? The mix and matter tree of suspension, solution, colloid, blah, blah, blah. And as I went through all of this, I created 2 scenarios. One where they had to use the principle of a density tower to create a foundation, and then a viscosity ramp test, similar to a quest that I've already done. Side note, do not be afraid in an endgame to rehash stuff. Just give it a bit of a tweak, because sometimes the kids they're gonna have completely forgotten it, and in the heat of the moment and the craziness of the day, for your end game, what's going to happen is they're going to turn around and they're going to essentially redo things, which are going to just enforce things so much more, because it's like, oh yeah, I remember this, and they're going to keep kind of hammering forward. Now that you've got kind of your 10 main events, or 6 or 8 or whatever, my recommendation would be no less than 8. The second thing you'll do is you're going to have your side quests. You're going to have a bunch of kids who are going to plow through stuff like they always do. From that point forward, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to think about NPCs, or non-player controls, in games, who do little side missions. So hide stuff in the field or in the school. Create little puzzles and riddles and give them to volunteers. Sometimes, teaching 8th grade, I got some grade 7 drama students to hang out with me for the day and put it all together. And I said, okay, if a kid comes up and talks to you, do this. If they come up and give you this, then give them that. And so it all culminated, and I had about 20 or 25 different things that the kids could go through. Some were very small, like give this person food because they're hungry and they'll give you a key, and then you take the key to a treasure box that's on the field. And again, that took 5 seconds of planning. So once all that was said and done, the third thing you have to do is you got to prep all this. And I'm going to tell you right away, you're going to need about a month to prep. Bits and pieces every night. I don't mean a month of, 40-hour month of grinding away and plugging this all together. No, do 1 or 2 things a month. 1 or 2 things a day for the course of a month. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create your stories, your scenarios in a form of a script. Because the first thing you got to do is you got to secure volunteers. You can't do this on your own. So when you secure your volunteers, you go ahead, you take them and you give them a script. And they look at the script and it says, here's the scenario you're in. So when I write them, they're described like, you're a disgruntled villager whose house has collapsed, blah, 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 blah. And then the second thing is, what is the goal that you're trying to get out of the kids? So you are trying to get the kids to build you a foundation by ordering the materials that you have. So rock, gravel, sand, sawdust, that's kind of stuff I gave them. They have to order it in a density layer from most dense to least dense, but prove it to you. So there's your viscosity ramp, your density tower, all those kinds of things, in order to best secure your house on a foundation so that it becomes stable again, since it's been knocked over and destroyed. And then I tell them, and I mentioned the word disgruntled a few times, I give them a little descriptor. I want you to be frustrated, happy, angry, because you want them to bring the story to life. Because when they bring the story to life, the kids are so much more captivated to it. So they may be running around grumpy and frustrated and, oh, God, I can't believe this happened, and blah, blah, blah. And then the kids will become more invested in wanting to help. All right, I just want to be sure about the planning phase, because it's a little bit tough to describe without visuals. So when you start your planning of your main quests, first thing you do is you're going to have your volunteer. So this was the name of my volunteer. She was also one of my student teachers, so I was fortunate to have that. Second thing is the goal. So what is the goal? This was from my biology cells and system unit, which is an eye dissection. I got some cow eyes, and the point of the activity was to label and identify components of the eye. This also then bled into the light and optics unit. So it's kind of a dual role. So here's the premise. So what is the point of the scenario? Said that she was a researcher, she was injured, and she now needs help, essentially. How do you act? This is where you describe to your volunteer where and how they should be acting. So I said, like, frustrated, you're mad, you don't like that these things are happening. And that's how they acted when students interact with them. Then it came down to the goal. The goal was to identify parts of a cow eyeball, and I needed a grading scale. So I always included something called an XP breakdown. So for the XP breakdown, I said, remember to ask guild name. And then you give them 100 XP points for every correctly identified part. You can also use a 500 XP scale for making a book about the diagrams. And again, I didn't give them paper, but I hid paper and pencils and stuff all over the place. So in that if they found it and they wanted to make this booklet that she could carry forward with their research, they could. And again, that was the wow factor. When they were done, the person running the station would send me a text message to my phone number. I will block this out. I hope I remember to do it. And then they would say this was the guild, hence remember to ask them their guild name. So the Fighting Potatoes identified 3 for 300 XP, no book. So they would say Fighting Potatoes, they would say station number 1, and they would say earned 300 XP. I would then update the leaderboard. Later on in the day, I just had a volunteer run the leaderboard. So that is the scenarios that I created. And again, I had 12 of these in my game. 10 significant ones, 2 minor ones, and then the NPCs, the side quests, like hiding stuff, were very, very simple. Pretty much just said, walk around the field, you're hungry, act like you're hungry. Goal, give them to give you a food card, give them a key or a sword or whatever it is they would exchange. So they were much simpler. Side note, when it comes to the XP breakdown section here, you want to ensure that the guide, because there's going to be volunteers, this is not for a grade, this is for review. So it's just to determine a winner. What did the winner of my game get? I gave them a bonus 5% at the end of their final exam, which is nothing, but to them, the world. So I would say, you got 80, your guild won, I give you 85 on the final exam. And again, it factored into nothing, and I got admin approval for it if you have kind of stickly principles. So make sure that it is clear. If you need to include visuals, if it looks like this, they get this much XP. If they need a scoring rubric, you explain it to them in advance. You make it very clear, very detailed, because a lot of your volunteers are not going to be teachers. And again, because it's no grade, you can use this, but you want your XP breakdown section to be absolutely as clear as possible. So I hope that cleared the planning stage a little bit. When that is done, the next most important thing you have to do is you have to book your field if you're doing this outdoors, double check field trips, double check that you have volunteers for that day, double check if you need sub coverage that is booked and covered by the school. You need a rain out day. You need to make sure there are no other field trips that are going to pull your kids away. Let's say there's a French field trip for the option and you lose 20 kids. Well, that's all of a sudden going to become an issue. So you have to double check all of these different kinds of things, because my event was a full school day from 8:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. They did not go into school whatsoever. We had an outhouse on the field, so that was their washroom. And I had to ensure that we had modified recesses and things for the other kids, because when you all of a sudden have the 5s and 6s come outside for a recess, which it was the case of my school, I had to bring everybody back to their camp. On the topic of camp, the next thing you want to do, so step 3 was prep, step 4 is map it. So take a Google satellite shot of your field, because again, I'd recommend this outdoors. It's going to get chaotic, and them running up and down the halls will make all your other colleagues pretty frustrated, I would imagine, so do it outside. And what I did was I drew a map, and then I just started drawing little, every time there was a triangle on the map, that was an event. And then beside that on the map, I created a legend. And beside that legend, I had, what do I need? You need two tables and a chair. You needed 5 bean bags and a hoop, whatever the heck it was. So that during the course of the prep, I started to accumulate all of these items in the prep room of my school, so that the day of the event, I could just haul it all in a cart right down to the edge of the field and get everything set up. So that was a huge thing that I learned that saved me, because there was no surprises of, oh, I forgot this. It was all pre-mapped and planned. Once you have your volunteers, you have everything set up, you get everything by the closest entrance the night before, so that when you get to the school, and you're going to want to be there early in the morning. Truth be told, I was there at 5 a.m. the day of the event because I needed to get the whole field set up, and I was super fortunate. You'll see some of the aerial footage I'm going to show in a bit. The school field is gigantic that I used, so this just ended up being really, really helpful for me. Then it was just go time. It was get out on the field, get everything set up, get your scripts to your volunteers, get them to their stations. Then you get all the kids together, and when the kids are all together, you give them the instructions as vague as you want to be. Being vague is good because you catch them by surprise. You take them outside and you let them go, and you don't help them. The reason is you want them to truly undergo a review by testing what they remember and what they don't remember. So if they, I'll go back to my density one. If they had no idea how to build the foundation, they can't figure out what density was, they couldn't get the layers right, that's a big light bulb for, hey, for your final exam, you better reviewing what density is. And this did work because overall I saw grades increased. So I want to show you some footage and kind of thing, but I'm going to summarize everything I just said because I realized, I've been talking for a long time. Number one, you want to go ahead and you want to set your goal. If you want a single event that's going to take a half day, quarter day or something like that, or do you want a full day review? My advice, full day review is a ton of fun. Second, you start to plan. You want about 2 significant events or major quests per unit that you've covered. I would recommend no less than 8 because the kids will go through it pretty quickly. 3, you want to create your non-player scenario things. For your non-player scenario, again, those are the side things. Hide stuff on the field, put clues, put word ciphers, translate stuff, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, you're going to want shops and things like that set up outside as well, and for them to be able to spend their gold. How do they spend gold? I literally just wrote, I took a punch that our school has, I punched out a bunch of squares, wrote some monetary values on them, and then just looked at the leaderboard and said, okay, this guild has this much gold, and gave it to them in a little satchel, which was pretty cool. You'll see that in the video. Kids loved it. Did take some time though, so get some volunteers, some kid helpers to make the money. Once that all said and done, start the prep work. Start planning your script, start planning your things, start gathering your material, start mapping it out, and go step by step. Give yourself, again, about a month because there's going to be trial and error. Your mind is going to go, oh, I should do this, I should do this. You want to keep it nice and steady. When that is all said and done, you get your volunteers, you get out on the day, you bring the kids together, and when it is all said and done, you take them out onto the field and you let them go. What do you do as the teacher during the event? Why don't I tell you? You walk around as a character and you make sure that kids aren't fighting or killing each other, and you answer any questions that the volunteers have, and you stay out of the kids' way. It is ultimately a review game, so I instruct them in the beginning and then I get out of the way and I just have some fun watching and doing little setup and support work for my volunteers and shops and things like that as needed. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is an end game in a very long-winded 14.5-minute talk. What are some other things you can do? Encourage the kids to dress up, encourage them to talk in tongue, if it's futuristic, do they use crazy futuristic made-up words, or do you talk in medieval like we do? Get those costumes, get those flags built to claim territories at a campsite, and just have a bunch of fun. Just remember, an endgame should be an incredibly fun culminating event to summarize the entire 9 to 10 months process that you just put in. So I want you to check out some footage that I've accumulated for my endgame this year.
I feel so awkward. You ready to sign to tear it up? Oh,
right, so looking a little different here, different background. I totally forgot to film my ending part to this video. So that was some footage, again, through drone, through some of my students who did some stuff with GoPros, running around, which is kind of a little side quest in the game as well to document the day for bonus XP. And it's, again, hugely popular, tons of fun. Kids are everywhere doing all kinds of stuff, and it keeps them engaged virtually the entire time because there's just so much to do and explore. I just want to do a little video next here of a news article that was done, or I shouldn't say article, I should say a video to go with an article that was done by the Edmonton Journal, our local newspaper here. And it was filmed by David Bloom and edited by Andy Roberts, so full credit to them. So here's a little 2-minute snippet of a news story that was done about this way of learning, which I think turned out pretty cool. So check it out.
People of Scientia Terra, welcome to your final exam. What I did was I looked at the concept of school technically is like an RPG. They're supposed to start off at level 0 in kindergarten, and we are supposed to upgrade them till they hit the end boss, which is their final exams, and then they head into university and college and the workforce. So when you take that on a small scale in a classroom, that's exactly how games work. So that's what I tried to do here. So while I know nothing about it in that sense, I took the principles of game design, whether it's clues or collaboration or puzzles or experience points or focus on progress, not loss, and things like that, and coupled it all together. It's super in-depth. It never looks in-depth to people who look at it from the surface level. Today, there's going to be math, there's going to be language, there's going to be science, all mixed into one. There's going to be collaboration, there's going to be art. Kids are going to have to draw and build. There's going to be engineering and the construction. So everything is cross-curricular when you do gamification the right way. It is not me standing in front of people and saying, play this game and I'm going to stay back. It is really, really in-depth when it's done properly. When it comes to assessment, each of my volunteers has been giving a very specific grading scale. And then they are going to be messaging me the experience points that the players earn throughout, and then I'm going to be tracking it on a leaderboard. The winning team is going to receive a bonus for their final exam, the written component of it.
Well, it puts you in more like realistic situations, like, because a lot of times in real life you won't be writing things down on a piece of paper. You'll have like real problems and situations pop up to you. So it helps you respond with those kind of real world situations.
Yeah, and there's interactivity for sure. When you put something into a game, it makes it more fun, as I said before, and it makes people more
into it.
Yeah.
I'm in the role of Braddox, an orc commander that the students have to battle after having completed a science review. So the students come, and if they get questions right, they get to pound me, and if they get questions wrong, well, I get to pound them. I couldn't be happier with the imagination that the teachers are bringing to the programming now, and I'm ecstatic to have my children as part of the system.
This is what kids know, and this is what humans know. We're all about play and we're all about fun. And when you can connect those with learning, it deepens so much more than just reading from a textbook or filling in worksheets and things like that. So they are going to be practically applying, constructing, building, trivia, challenging, math, the whole bit, the whole gamut throughout the entire day. There's probably 25 to 30 different tasks that they can complete today.
All right, so there you have it. That is Endgames 101, how to plan and prep and get it all ready. And again, something I highly, highly recommend if you're going to do a year-long gamified program, because it has to come to some sort of finality, some sort of ending where they can waste all their cards, use all their cards, spend their money, burn off their resources, and really kind of show them what they remember and don't remember throughout the year, because again, gamification will throw a lot of kids. So it is a ton of fun. Have a blast doing it. I'd love to hear about how you guys plan stuff. Any ideas, questions, of course, message below and I will reply to you. And if not, check out the website, check out the channel, like, subscribe, all those good things. But thanks for checking out Endgames, and I'll be back next week with another video. Until next time.